Professor Lim, thank you for your presentation. One of the issues that you raised was the importance of migrants being brought into reconciliation processes and also the recognition of past wrongs of a nation. Can you tell us why this is an important issue?
This is a really quite a new discovery for me. I mean that this is the Turkish-German new immigrants, right? They came to Germany as Gastarbeiters from 1960s on. And then the Turkish-German novelist wrote that for them, immigration to Germany means also immigration to the Germans' recent past, right? So they want to be intermingled with the German terms, coming to terms with the past, especially with the Nazi past and Holocaust. And then, but actually they found that they were totally excluded from this German, way of coming to terms with the Nazi past, because this Holocaust was done before they are coming, and it's, so we Germans are responsible for this. This is quite, seems logical, right? Because they were in Turkey and they have nothing to do with, but how can I say, as a result, regardless of they intended or not, these new immigrants, new German citizens of Turkish descent, right? They were excluded from this process of coming to terms with the Nazi past or coming to terms with the Holocaust. So in that way, this is looking me a very justifiable German way of coming to terms with the Nazi past, in a sense, very much ethnicize German society. And in that way also they exclude this new immigrants group from this, the national communities project of coming to terms with the past. So that was really revealing process. For example, that's why I said about, for example, these Asian new immigrants to Australia. Yeah? What's the role of those Asian new immigrants in the Australian coming to terms with the past of this genocide of this Tasmania, or coming to terms with the past of stolen generation? If the logically people can say that, okay, it's not your fault, it's our fault, and we white Australians are responsible for this, so just get away, right? You don't have, you have nothing to do with this. But this logic, in a sense, contribute to ethnicizing the people's way of looking at past. So this is really complicated thing. So I'm just wondering, in Asian case, or in East Asian case, or in Australian case, how this new immigrants group can involve in this its own society's way of coming to terms with the past.
A point that you raised was Zygmunt Bauman's victim becoming the victimizer. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you apply that concept?
It's, I don't think that is on the area of research. Rather, as a historian who is working on Poland, actually my interest in the victimhood began with my participation in the Polish debate. And also I found that Poland, 6 million Poles were killed. Less than 6 million, but 6 million is almost 1/4 of the whole population was killed during the Second World War. So nobody can deny that Polish nation was one of the most victimized nations during the Second World War, right? But, so this, for example, Jie-Hyun massacres showed the Poles that you are not only victims, but also victimizers, but also perpetrators. And then, if one has a look, read some ordinary Poles' response towards this new revelation of massacre of Jews in Jie-Hyun, it's really striking. They were really amazed at the fact that they were really shocked at the fact that, oh my God, we Poles were not only victims, but also we are perpetrators. Did we kill Jews? So it brought the whole society into a panic. And because, the position of victim is a morally very comfortable position, right? Oh, we never perpetrated those things, and we were just victimized, and so morally we are we have a quite justifiable position of victim. That's why this Biennial society, the Vergangenheitsbewältigung, coming to terms with the past in the historical culture, want to posit one's own the position as a victim rather than victimizers. So this Yedvabne controversy showed me a really important clue to understanding oh my God, this feeling of victimhood has been a sort of backbone of the post-war nationalism, and the people could justify their own nationalisms by making use of this victimhood consciousness, and also Israeli case. Visibly, you can see this. And then suddenly I began to think of my own, the Korean historiography. Oh my God, this victimhood, hereditary victimhood, and the Polish, this, how can I say, embarrassment about this Yedvabne massacres, it's not just their own things, right? It's our own things, and the Korean, the national culture or historical culture is not free from this sort of victim of nationalism and so on. So I try to combine this, the concept of hereditary victimhood by Zygmunt Bauman with the post-colonial historiography or post-colonial problematics in the making a critical analysis of nationalist historiography in Korea, also in Japan, and in East Asia in general. And then as I talked about this fuss about the Yoko Kawashima Watkins's Hikiage Stories Korean translation, and then at that moment I found, okay, then perhaps I may label it the victim of nationalism, and it's a certain, this victimhood has been sublimed into a certain domain of ideology. So that's the beginning of this, my research or my study on victim of nationalism. Yeah.
And specifically, you mentioned Korea and how Korea has a tradition of seeing itself as a victim. How was your research taken up or accepted in Korea?
At the moment, I have focused on the Poland, Germany, and Israel, and Japan. Okay. In Korean case, I think people's reaction against these Hikiage stories, and also history textbooks. And now I'm also, as soon as I come back to Korea, I'm now preparing a paper on the martyrdom, victimhood, and nation building, and imagining Israel in post-colonial Korea. So how the post-colonial Korean society imagined Israel as a model, right? And so this is one of the way of approaching the victimhood in Korea, also in North Korea. There is terrible, the Stalinist anti-Semitic discourse has been dominant, like in the East European socialist countries. And this North Korean, the Stalinist anti-Semitic discourse also came to South Korea. Especially it has been popular among some nationalist left intellectuals. On the other hand, South Korean right-wing nationalists always they try to find a model in the case of Israel. So very strange way, and the leftist nationalists and the rightist nationalists are combined in imagining Israel in the both Koreas and after 1945. So there are really, how can I say, very, very, very complex, multi-layered minefields are lying, for the study of this victim nationalism, I think.
One of the things that's come out of this conference is a sense of optimism about the emerging Asian century. Do you have a sense of optimism?
Yeah, that's why I think it is a little bit dangerous. Optimism is always dangerous than pessimism in a sense, right? For example, since last decade, especially from the first of this 21st century, there has been a tendency in historiography which put an emphasis on the economic advanced economy in China and the Kanto Japan and India in by the second half of 18th century. So this global history has shown us that the economic development level of those East Asian Yangtze River area in China and the Kanto area in Japan and the Bengal area in Bengal, I can't remember, I'm not sure, but this northern part of India, the economic development was superior even to Manchester and the Western European so-called the advanced capitalist countries. And then that's a very good way of criticizing Eurocentric interpretation of world history. But on the other way around, some people began to think, oh, we were better than these guys, right? And then so this sort of, how can I say, reversed Orientalism can be found in this new tendency of historiography or global history, which really tries to criticize or go beyond Eurocentrism. So I'm still reserved about these new discourses, new narrative about the Asian century and New Asia. It's true, but how can I say, the position of Asia in the world so increasingly becomes important, and then nobody can deny that. But if we just go with this new trend without self-reflexivity, right, then we can repeat the Eurocentrism or Orientalism in a reversed form, right? So we should be very careful about this in this sense. And then, yeah, still it's a very ambivalent, right? Positive side and negative side, but it will be up to you, up to us, right? How to work on Asia with a really critical, some angles and critical viewpoints and then self-reflexive, some framework, yeah. Still, it's a challenging task for us who are working on humanities and then with a focus on Asia and so on, yeah.